Q&A again, Paleo Problem Island, MikeTheCaveman.com. Got another edition of Monday Nights with Mike, Livestream Q&A. Ask me anything, health related. You know the deal. Put your questions and comments down in the comment box down below. I'm going to go pull up on my phone. That way I can potentially see what some of your questions are. The problem, of course, is that it's delayed on here and then on my phone, which is kind of jacked up. We'll pull it up, though, anyway. All right, here we go. Maddie, what's up? Jody, how you guys doing? Let me put that on low. Excuse me. All right, so while I'm waiting for you guys, Susanna, what's up? Put your questions down. I know the three of you always have amazing questions. I will get started on some alternative topics that we had before. And so, aliens. I don't know what the aliens are for. Whatever. So, some questions I had earlier. My friend Steph had asked me about organic. Yep, there she is. Steph, what's up? I'm opening up with the organic stuff. And common question is organic nonsense? Like, is it actually mean anything? And the fact of the matter is, while a lot of times you look at the data and it doesn't show differences in the micronutrient availability, how much there actually is found in there, the fact of the matter is the use of those pesticides is going to result in changes in your ability to absorb it. Now, that was very poorly worded. Allow me to try to explain it a little better. What I mean is, your body only has a certain amount of stress it can take. We've talked about that before, your allostatic load, the amount of stress you can handle at a given time. And once you cross that threshold, you cause problems. So, when we are using synthetic fertilizers and other products in the industrial agricultural process, what ends up happening is we put more tax on our liver, in which case we have to detox that stuff first. As such, we end up using more of those vitamins and minerals, things that were built up that were supposed to be in the soil, fighting that off. So that goes back to the whole sustainability aspect. We talked about 2 weeks ago. I did the ethical omnivore video, and essentially that's part of the reason why it's super important. Besides just your health, besides the health of the animals, and that there's also the environmental aspect. Essentially, that by using animal inputs, while on the surface it seems immoral. No, what about the animals? We can't let them die. Every time, in order for something to live, something else must die, unfortunately. And the fact of the matter is that when we're talking about growing crops properly, we need generally a couple of different things. You need a nitrogen input, you need water input. The nitrogen one, unfortunately, it generally should be coming from animals. It's the way life works. Okay. Essentially, though, on the end of that, while the word natural means nothing, the words like free range on eggs don't really mean anything. Organic definitely actually has a legal definition and it actually does mean something, and it is important. So whenever possible, go for the organic. All right. So most reputable supplement brands. And so depends on what we're talking about specifically. We're talking about because it varies depending on what kind of supplement we're talking about. So when it comes to probiotic-based stuff, I'm going completely to towards Megaspores or Microbiome Labs. Wish I could listen live. I have a date tonight. Hey, have fun, Jody. Have fun. But awesome. All right. So Microbiome Labs, huge fan of theirs. When it comes to things like systemic enzymes and to a lesser extent probiotics as well, I love HCP Labs, which makes Fibrenza. In terms of multivitamins and MCT oil and actually protein as well, I really love Calta Nutrition. There's a reason why I work with these companies in the sense of recommending them. I don't make those decisions just arbitrarily. I go and look into what I believe are some of the best. If it comes to herbal supplements, I really love Standard Process. I've been using them for over 20 years, and their products actually are second to none in terms of the herbs. What else in terms of supplements? In terms of turmeric, I truly love Synchro Gold. Excellent product there. In terms of just generic, you need to grab something quick, Vitamin Shop. So a lot of times people ask, oh, well, where can I just go grab this? And if it's not a brand that I work with specifically, I would definitely say Vitamin Shop. Their in-house stuff, while not necessarily the best, is passable at an affordable price, and it is available pretty much everywhere. So totally a fan of that. All right, I got some Coastal Craft Kombucha, a little shameless plug there. Some mint mojito, it's delicious. All right. Ferritin has gone down despite taking iron glycinate and vitamin C. Betting HCI. I also have a hemolytic anemia. Could the latter be why I can't get my ferritin up? Absolutely, yes. So if your blood cells are getting broken down, boycott, then absolutely yes. The ferritin, the lack of increase in the ferritin despite supplementation with iron, vitamin C, and the beta HCl to help to break that down, completely could be it. Yeah, love Vitamin Shop, Synchro Gold, Megaspore. So I'd have to look into it. I don't know for sure, but is it possible the ozone that you've been doing lately could play a role in your ferritin not going up? The reason why that thought comes to mind is the fact that iron is very oxidizable. Ozone is extra oxygen. It's O3. So, potentially, ozone therapy could be an issue. So, I'd have to look into it in terms of more. But, that being said, mechanistically, it makes sense. And I honestly don't know. I'd have to look more into it. But I would definitely think that could potentially be it. Yeah. Do you suggest following a keto diet for weight loss? Also, have you heard of Fathead pizza? Because it's amazing if you agree with the whole keto thing. Awesome. So, I definitely think that a keto plan is an excellent idea for a lot of people. In terms of therapeutic applications, there is definitive benefit for things like neurodegenerative, things like a lot of mental health issues. Epilepsy is, again, the definitive one. There's some interesting evidence for cancer. Regarding weight loss, it absolutely can be beneficial for weight loss. That being said, it is individual. There are certain individuals that it might not necessarily be for. Certain people do need to have a higher level of carbohydrate intake, whether it be athletes, and that's athletes engaging in higher intensity activity. There are ways around it, but you're better off overall not in a super strict keto. A low-ish carb, sure, but necessarily super strict keto, thyroid issues, adrenal issues, those are other conditions where super strict keto may not be the best bet. That being said, keto recipes can generally be a great idea either way, regardless of whether you're trying to go into a ketogenic diet or specifically that. So I'm not really familiar with this Fathead pizza. Go on, tell me a little bit about it. Let's see what we got. I wonder if it's similar to my keto calzone that I have a recipe for, and I'll put a link to that description to the video I have in that after this. But what exactly is your Fathead pizza? All right, while I'm waiting for that, while I'm waiting to see, hold on, finding the ingredients. Awesome, sounds good. While I'm waiting for that, what do you call it? And yeah, me wiping my phone like an idiot. That's my screen's a little jacked up, so sometimes it's not really touch responsive. I need to get this fixed, but who's got time for that? Let's see. Shit. Yeah, so far, if you're joining late, we talked about reputable supplement brands, the importance of organic, talked a little about iron and potentially how ozone could affect it. Now we're trying to figure out the ingredients to Fathead pizza. Excuse me. All right. But it doesn't help that I can't post a pic in the comments. Ugh. You actually can afterwards, but it doesn't help me right now. No. If you want to shoot to me in Messenger, I could see on my phone. So if you could send it to me on Messenger, that would probably be the best bet. What else we got, though? What other questions? Hey, Catherine, what's up? How you doing? All right, so Fathead Pizza. Let me see if I can pull it up, unless you send it to me real quick, Maddie. Oh, never mind. There it is. Awesome. Thank you. We have grated cheese. Mozzarella is your best bet, or Edam mild cheese. We have almond meal flour, cream cheese, 1 egg, salt, rosemary, garlic, and then other flavors is pepperoni, peppers. Yeah, this sounds pretty much identical to my calzone recipe. I will, in fact, put a link to that afterwards. Unless, which if I can send it right back to you. Let's see if you can put it up there, Maddie. Yeah, I can imagine that being really good. I actually ended up coming up with something similar to this when I was making a year ago. My dad wanted pizza, and I think it was like around Father's Day or so, and I decided, screw it, gonna make some pizza because he was on keto protocol and couldn't necessarily do it otherwise. You just text it to me? Where'd that go? Oh, you texted it to me. Okay. I'm like, whoa. So, okay. I'll send that back. If you could post that, Maddie, that'd be great. Yep. So I can't, yeah. I'll check out the video for them in a little bit, but if you could repost the lady video I just sent you back, that's my keto calzone recipe. That'd be great. All right, so Fathead Pizza looks pretty solid. I could definitely think that'd be a good idea. Not the recipe, but the video. Got it. So it's a video about keto and how it fits in. So yeah, so it's actually a ketogenic calzone recipe. That's why I sent you the link back to, if you could post that. Super similar though to the Fathead Pizza. Yeah, and it's fun because so one of the original videos I did on this channel was, well, right now we're on Facebook, but you know where I'm doing it, especially if you're watching the replay on YouTube, but whatever. Anyway, I originally had done the link to my video, Knucklehead, the one I sent you, whatever. Anyway, so I was originally coming up with my own recipe for the keto calzone. I had looked in a couple of different directions, and the whole idea of almond meal versus coconut flour, and rewinding for a second, I had originally done a video I was saying about coconut. I was originally I did a video on nut flours and why it's not necessarily the best idea. Nut flours, nut butters. And the problem with it is that the amount of time it would take to actually gather that historically would represent that they weren't necessarily a major part of our diet in the way they would be today. So in order to gather shell and gather, shell be crushing, yeah. So gather shell, soak, sprout, mill, turn it into the flour, and then bake these products, not necessarily the most likely source of nutrition in our diet. So even if we ate nuts, we probably didn't eat it in the flour form for a long time. And as such, excess amounts of that probably not a great idea. Whereas something like, say, coconut flour is basically just ground up coconut meat. And again, not necessarily the best idea, but I would think normally it would be better in terms of an ancestral approach. That being said, for a strict ketogenic profile, coconut flour does contain more carbohydrate, both a little bit of sugar and a decent amount of resistant starch and fiber. So because of that, it actually raises the carbohydrate intake up. The fiber and the resistant starch obviously aren't going to affect ketosis too much, but that being said, the carbohydrate content is higher in coconut flour. So we're trying to keep it towards more of a zero carb end, like a super ketogenic protocol, then almond flour is a better bet overall. But particularly if you're doing it as an occasional occurrence, the keto idea is definitely a good idea in terms of making a treat, making a ketogenic style treat. In this case, pizza, calzone. Yeah, it's a good idea. I like it. Recipe says to use coconut flour for pastry dough. Nice. Makes sense in terms of taste profile and everything. Because coconut in general, regardless if we're talking about the oil or the milk or the flour, generally has like a sweeter taste. It's not really that sugary, especially the oil. There's no sugar in it. But I will generally pair coconut oil with cooking with two things. One, if I'm making something that's sweet, and let's say I'm making eggs in the morning, I want to add like apples or other fruit to it, which I know sounds weird on the surface, but think about a pancake. Is it really that weird? I just took out the wheat. Anyway, so I'll usually pair coconut oil with that, or if I'm going Latin or Thai. So if I'm making some type of Latin dish or some type of Thai dish, then I'll be more apt to use coconut oil. Otherwise, I'm using grass-fed butter and or bacon grease because bacon. Okay, what else we got going? Can you explain some of the research that exonerates fruit use to get a bad rap due to fructose contests? No, that actually, you don't have to be more clear. That actually does make sense. I know what you're trying to say. So essentially, there's a couple of reasons why. And actually, let me rewind for a second, because I know Maddie mentioned that her son did break out a little from goat's milk. So unfortunately, it looks like, even though if it's a different style of casein, it may still potentially be an issue, even though it's A1 versus A2 casein, and that can sometimes be less problematic. In this case, it looks like no good. Probably because he happened to slab onto mom's crappy gluten genetics. Sorry. So going back to Stephanie's question about exonerating fruits and you should get a bad rap due to fructose content. So part of it has to do with the way that fructose is metabolized in isolation. Meaning, when you're eating food that has fructose in it, like something with fructose added to it, it's not something that's naturally found there, and there's usually less to slow down its absorption. Whereas when you're eating it with, say, fruit, generally you're getting with fiber and such. Now, that slowdown process, by having the fiber, it makes it so that less fructose is getting absorbed at a single clip. There's also the added benefit of extra micronutrients. So going back to your original question that we discussed in the beginning with organic, micronutrient content is super important. It is essential. Your vitamins and minerals are essential for a host of things. So regarding the fructose content in fruit versus, isolated in the form of either high fructose corn syrup or otherwise, or even sucrose, it's a matter of actually having other things coming along for the ride. So quick distinction on why fructose is problematic compared to other sugars is the fact that fructose is generally metabolized as the way your body would alcohol, in the sense of it takes priority over other things. Now, because of that, it's not going to cause an insulin spike. Cool. Unfortunately, because it's being metabolized as if it was a poison, and that's a really gross oversimplification, it essentially takes priority and has to get cleared out first. Because of that, other things that are coming along with it, other things that aren't natural. So, when you eat something in nature that's generally high in fructose, it's not very high in protein or fat. There's, in fact, very minimal of it. Generally, the more fructose something has, the less fat or protein it's going to have. As such, if it has to take priority, that's fine. Your body just clears it out. It's number one. When you're eating a pastry, let's say, or whatever other garbage you're eating as a processed food, that's a better way of putting it. Whatever garbage processed food you're eating that has fructose added to it, it's usually going to be coming along with protein and fat. And if you're having a mixed drink, it's coming along with alcohol too. So now your body really has to decide, what's priority number one? Is it the fructose or is it the alcohol? Generally, the alcohol takes priority, but then that causes even more problems. So fructose is a major driver of a number of conditions, sort of. It's hard. Fructose in the sense of processed foods, not fruits, because it's very unlikely that someone is going to give themselves non-alcoholic fatty liver from fruit. Even Dorian Ryder is probably not, and if you don't know who he is, consider yourself lucky, probably isn't going to be giving themselves non-alcoholic fatty liver. The other conditions that are definitely fructose, well, definitely is a very loose term, but that are very fructose dependent would be gout. And gout gets a bad rap because of purines. So always, oh, it's the meat, it's all the meat, it's the Atkins causing the gout. A lot of times it's actually excess fructose intake. So can't get my live video to work. Interesting. It's frozen. Uh-oh. Does anybody else have a problem here? 'Cause I'm still showing myself live. So we may be having some technical difficulties right now. Let me see if I can see what's going on here. I don't know. It still shows me as live, theoretically. Weird. Working fine for me. Thanks, Alex. Sorry, Madge texted me saying that it wasn't working. Awesome. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, I'm still showing myself as if I'm running, but must be higher end. All right, thanks for the confirmation. All right, so back to where I was going with that. The fructose, generally speaking, if you're eating a whole buttload of fruit, it's probably not going to be causing a problem. If you're eating in the context of a highly processed diet and you're eating it along with that fat and likely alcohol and all the other processed things, all the other foods along with it, in the absence of the fiber and in the absence of those micronutrients, that's when fructose is going to be a problem. Today, generally speaking, we're talking about somebody who is having issues because of a high fructose diet. It's not going to be the fruit. Most likely, somebody with metabolic syndrome, somebody with diabetes, obesity, heart disease. That's the big confounders together. Somebody who has those three together probably didn't get that way from eating too much fruit. So fruit can still potentially have a bad rap if you're going strictly for a strict keto. If you have blood sugar response, because there is still glucose in it, if you happen to notice on certain fruits, you have an abnormal blood sugar response. So ones that are higher overall in fructose. Well, ones that are higher in glucose along with that fructose, because fructose doesn't cause a blood sugar spike. Anyway, if you have if you notice an issue with that, then yeah, fruits may not be for you overall. But generally speaking, you're not going to run into big problems with fructose in and of itself. Juicing, that's the other end of that too. That's a major caveat to juicing, is that by removing the fiber, you're getting a lot bigger whack of both glucose and fructose. So that's going to be problematic on that end. But regardless of specific conditions, generally speaking, fructose in the form of fruit isn't going to be a problem. So that's where that comes in. All right. Kathy, what's up? How you doing? And Alex, since I didn't know you were on until now, what's up? Yeah. What other questions we got right now? Because right now we're at what time? About 20 minutes in, give or take, and potentially having technical difficulties. Let's see what kind of questions we got coming in. So far, we talked a little bit about different milks, and we talked about, as rambled on a bit right there, about fructose and why fruits necessarily aren't inherently bad. They're not. Eat some fruit, generally speaking. Talked a little bit about organic, the importance of organic. We talked about Fathead pizza versus my ketogenic calzone, and we talked a little bit about where that comes in, where carbohydrate intake comes in there. Actually, I had a good question earlier. Ryan actually asked me earlier, which is crazy. I normally don't get health-related questions from him, but happened to ask about dates and their sugar content and everything versus whether it's good for digestion. And yeah, there actually can be some decent benefit to fruits in general. So generally speaking, depending on where your gut situation is situated at, things like fiber and things like resistant starch are going to be an excellent idea to promote gut health. And sugar, again, provided you are in a healthy situation, provided you have not crushed your gut otherwise, is generally not going to be a problem. The problem is the vast majority of people have crushed their gut for a number of reasons. 1, eating garbage food. 2, being exposed to environmental toxins. 3, antibiotic use. There's quite a few more. Other pharmaceuticals will cause issues to your gut biota. Not eating enough of those in the first place, the fiber and stuff, the fibrous and the resistant starch, not eating those in the first place. So different things, and my brain is fried right now. Lost my train of thought where I was going with that, but essentially with different other cause. Well, I know where my train is going, but kind of derailed for a second there in terms of what other causes of dysbiosis there are. Oh, different foods that can cause damage. So inflammation. So yeah, there you go. General inflammatory foods that can cause intestinal permeability, different things that can basically cause issues therein. So the stomach inflammation can cause inflammation to the GI tract, which in turn can cause a dysbiotic issue. So when you have the wrong types of bacteria, you can go and have. When you have the wrong type of bacteria, generally speaking, they're going to want you to eat more garbage, and the sugars are going to have to feed those. Provided you have healthy bacteria in your gut, it generally won't be a problem. So something like dates, generally speaking, will actually help with digestion overall. So I have a Q. What food supplements or topical creams, oils would you recommend for scarring? I know vitamin E is a typical example, but Austin, for example, takes forever for scratches and cuts to heal. And then when they do finally close up, the scars stick around forever, even for shallow cuts, and his skin stays discolored. Okay, funny enough, I actually have a video on that. It's way old, so the quality is crappy. But generally speaking, vitamin E is a good idea. Coconut oil is a good idea. The fire cream is a good idea. DMSO is good. Comfrey root. Comfrey root is the big winner, and I would totally be doing that as soon as a cut happens. There are pictures on Facebook of when I lost my finger, and I'm not being hyperbolic on that. I lost a section of my finger, and the nail fell off in the process. I was getting ready for the 2013 Pan Am, so if you want to scroll back through 2013, I could always post the picture too. It was kind of gruesome. 2013 August, September-ish, because the competition was September, about a month out, I was lifting at LA Fitness, and I racked after a power clean, and I went to put the weight down, and my middle finger here got caught in between the rack and the weight, and ripped off top section of my finger. And normally people go get surgery, and I decided, no, I'll be fine. And I went and was putting comfrey root both tincture, dry herb, and then was using the fire cream on top of that. And then just because I had the competition, I was crazy gluing the nail back on because I am a nut job. But I was crazy gluing it back on just to make sure the nail didn't fall off until after the competition. And then after the Pan Ams, I let it fall off. And within a month and a half, it was completely back. There's actually pictures of it on Facebook because it happened that quickly. But as I flip off the camera, that is the finger there. This section from here off was ripped right off. So, yeah. Finger, no scar. Another time, before Chris Wade's first two, if you don't know, if you're not going to National Coliseum, Chris Wade, Ryan LaFleur, Dennis Bermudez, a couple others. Long Island, Brian Kelleher, bunch of Long Island boys fighting on Saturday. That being said, before Chris Wade's first pro fight, amateur fight, he was running combat amateurs, and he only had one amateur fight. Before his first amateur fight, me and Frank the white belt were sparring with Chris, and Frank had to end his round early. I'm not going to discuss what happened, but I ended up kicking Chris in the knee, and my foot split open, and looked like what you'd imagine it to look like, something right open. And same thing, everybody's like, oh, yeah, you have stitches. Actually, another kid got headbutted that night by me. He split his eye open, and he actually went and got stitches. Me, on the other hand, I started applying fire cream to answer your other question of after the wound is closed, right? No, I actually went because I didn't have anything else. I applied fire cream directly to the open wound in between my toes, and while he had stitches and has a scar to this day, I was sealed back up within 2 days on that one. Yeah, no scar. I don't feel like showing my toes. I didn't do a pedicure, sorry. Seriously though, yeah, sealed that up. I'm pretty sure I have pictures of that somewhere on Facebook too. I could probably find those. I'll see if I can find them. I'll put the censored bar over it. But yeah, funny enough, open wounds, bleeding, especially ones that won't stop bleeding, cayenne is actually an incredible idea. You would not be wrong to put raw, like the actual dry powder, onto the cut. It will stop it almost instantaneously. So, yes, it's going to burn. But what it does is it basically helps to mount the initial repair response. Basically, it tricks your body into thinking it's on fire. Take that to mean what you will. And essentially, it increases the cascade of repair. It's like, whoa, we need to fix that now. Sends it over there, and it helps to kind of also helps to regulate your blood pressure. So it helps to send it over, and it's like, okay, heal now, close up, form the scab. And I've had that happen. I've done it on a number of occasions where I've had cayenne take care of wounds pretty quickly. I would faint from the pain. The fire cream is too intense on my back, neck on a normal day. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, I've done it on a number of occasions. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just a good nut job, like you said before. Yeah, no, I've had it saved the day on a number of occasions. Otherwise, if you can't go with the fire cream, coconut oil, comfrey root are great ideas. Comfrey root, no problem. Comfrey root. So the active ingredient is something called allantoin. It's so named because of a residual part of the placenta known as the allantoin. And if we know what comes from the placenta, stem cells. So it got that name because traditionally in different cultures, what they would do is they would use that comfrey root, and in like Native American cultures, they call it actually knit bone and whatever. Essentially, it acts as a phytostem cell, plant stem cell. It helps to rebuild the extracellular matrix upon which your body can heal itself. So that's part of the reason why it's included in the fire cream is the fact that comfrey has a lot of amazing potential, particularly topically. It has controversy about in terms of internal use, but in terms of topical use, incredible stuff, particularly for wounds. Where we're trying to heal a scar, or you're trying to heal a cut before it becomes a scar, whether you're trying to deal with skin, bone, muscular, ligamental damage, pretty much all soft tissue, muscle, bone. It can basically help to regrow pretty much all of that. Now, in isolation, is it going to do it by itself? No, but it helps to build the matrix so that your body has a better chance at healing. So, all right. What other questions we got, guys? We are at what? We are at the 33-minute mark now. Wake up. Yeah, like you said, we've covered a lot of good topics so far. All right. What's going on? How you doing, Brock? Okay, we got some keto fasting questions for you. What you got for me, bud? What you got for me? Now, there is a little bit of a delay, so I'm sure you're probably typing something, and then we're going on from there. We talked a little bit about, while I'm waiting for you to put in your question, we talked a little bit about keto earlier. We're talking about my keto calzone recipe, which Maddie was supposed to post about, and then talked a little bit about, what was it? Keto calzone. We talked a little about her Fathead bread, or pizza, whatever, and then whatnot. So what we got? Okay. Any recommendations on what to have as the first meal to break a 16-hour fast? It's a great question. What it comes down to is, are you trying to maintain a keto protocol the entire time? Is it so? There's a lot of variables that come into that. Are you doing a cyclic ketogenic diet? Are you doing a daily fast? Is that a 16-8? I'm assuming that's probably a 16-8 fast you're doing, and that's probably daily. If that's the case, you have a little bit of flexibility. Are you going to be training around that window? full keto. So if you're going full keto, that means you're probably not going to have too many carbs in the first place, right? So I would say a good one, generally, eggs, bacon, maybe some vegetables. So yep, 16-8. Yeah, that's basically what I've been doing for a long time now. 7 years, six maybe, 2011. So 6.5 years now, I guess. Ancestral about 7 years now, but intermittent fasting about 6.5. Full keto I've done numerous occasions. But okay, so if you're going full keto with some 16-8 fasting, that first meal, generally speaking, how do you feel about once a week 24-hour fast thrown in there? So really depends on what you want to be doing. Again, that first meal, bacon, eggs, vegetables, good idea. Maybe some coffee, some coconut oil, keep it rolling. In terms of the occasional 24-hour fast, I've totally done those on a number of occasions. The best or worst, however you want to look at it, the longest, probably the better word for it, fast I ever did was a 34-hour fast, I think. 32, something like that. It was essentially, I had my normal 16-hour fast window that I had planned on, and unfortunately, my work schedule just happened to work out such that I couldn't get anything to eat. And until after I actually went to work throughout the whole day and then went to the gym and lifted and then finally got to eat like 32 hours later. And honestly, felt fine. I deadlifted 405 that day. So, fact of the matter is, you can totally get away with that. It's not gonna be a problem. I did a whole video on starvation mode way back in the beginning, like 300 plus episodes ago. And essentially, the whole idea is kind of a myth. It's an exaggeration. And as Mr. Softy comes rolling in, you probably hear him in the background. So it's not necessarily a myth in the sense that it doesn't exist. It does, but the range of which we think it's going to happen is a lot longer than what you think. So the whole 72 hours, if you don't eat for a couple of hours, you're going to go into starvation mode. No, it's about 72 hours is where we start to see the body start to waste a little bit. And even that is individual dependent. But I really wouldn't recommend going much longer than that. I wouldn't recommend going longer than that anyway. But there are some potential tremendous therapeutic uses for that. That being said, regarding the use of an extended fast, 24-hour fast here and there, not a problem. I never purposefully include them into programs, but if it that's a lie. That is a lie. One exception to that is fight camps. So if I had a weigh-ins for a fight, there would be a 24-hour fast involved, and that's simply because it just made the most sense. And I had to have that huge meal after weigh-ins. And regarding that, I think that's where fasting in particular can be hugely beneficial for fighters, or other weight class based athletes, in the sense that it gets you used to being able to perform and not being concerned about, oh no, I haven't eaten, what can I do? I have no energy, I feel terrible, I'm going to kill somebody. And the only thing that made me want to kill somebody during a weight cut was the fact that I couldn't have red meat or salt. That was the worst part, because I'd pull that out for creatine and salt purposes, and that made me miserable. Having to have plain spiced, but plain baked chicken breasts and eggs by themselves with nothing on them, that was the most miserable part. So regarding that end, the ability to know that you can go for a really extended period of time without eating makes life a lot easier overall. All right, training at the tail end of my fast makes me feel like a superhuman. I feel yeah, hell yeah, dude, 100%. It definitely, you can crush it, because at that point, so it actually makes sense from an evolutionary perspective. There is a hypothesis to why it happens and why we're able to go that extended period and why you feel awesome there. So think about it this way. If you were, hunter-gatherer and, it builds the framework. Everybody like, oh, caveman, paleo, you have this dogma. No, it's an idea upon which to build hypotheses. But bear with it here. So if you're a hunter-gatherer and you haven't eaten anything in a couple of days, and I've used this analogy before about how if you didn't have a refrigerator and you didn't have McDonald's and you didn't have a gas station and a supermarket, etc., you would have to go out and do things before you got a chance to eat. So fasting is definitely a historical part of our life. Anyway, if let's say you couldn't find anything, you didn't find any nuts or berries, it's mild ice age, it's the winter. Winter is here. Hopefully some of you got that and love it. Most of you hopefully do. That being said, if it's super cold out, you haven't had food in a couple of days, what's going to happen? Well, your body is going to make you hyper alert after the initial sluggishness because your body doesn't have the carbohydrate intake. So initially your body's running on those carbohydrates and it's stored glycogen, and either carbohydrate intake or stored glycogen, and your brain's running like, all right, we're good. Whoa, where's the sugar? You start to crash. That's where the initial starvation mode, which is really just your body not having the sugar and getting a little bit of brain fog. So what happens? You switch over to burning ketones. Why are those more beneficial for the brain, and why are they so beneficial in epilepsy and in neurodegenerative disease? Well, they provide more energy, they're more bang for your buck. They provide more focus, more cleaner energy, and again, very loose terms, but bear with me here. Essentially, what they're doing is, if you're on that day 4 of a fast, you haven't had access to food, or day 3, day 4, you haven't had it in that long, you need to be pretty sharp, because if your brain isn't functioning properly, you're not catching that food. If you're just slogging along completely, you're not getting it. So it makes sense that after a couple of days without food, your body is going to start to prioritize your cognitive functioning. So, all right. Just to throw some macro info your way, I've been playing around with them a bit. I'm about 170 goal to burn, maintain some fat, and be optimal performance for training. 25 comments. What do you think? Okay, so to help make it a little bit easier. Yeah, no, definitely can see some benefit there. It also depends on what kind of intensity you're looking at. So generally speaking, even for athletes, if you're going to start looking into athletic endeavors that require activation of the glycolytic pathway, so basically the higher intensity stuff. So things like even fighting, so sparring, probably going to want to have a little bit of carbohydrate intake. Grappling, generally not. You can get away with a lot lower intensity stuff. Wrestling, probably might want to have a little bit more carbohydrate. The balance is finding your performance versus what level of carbohydrate intake is suitable for you performance-wise, and balancing the cognitive benefits of ketones and the performance benefits of carbohydrate. And ketones can have performance benefit as well, but it's generally at the lower intensity of the spectrum, whereas carbohydrates have more benefit at the higher end of the exercise intensity spectrum. So the key is finding a way to balance those two. Now, have you ever tried a 7-day carb test? Or are you familiar with the 7-day carb test? Which I believe Maddie asked me to share information on that last week when we talked about it. I know Michael Reinhardt, we talked to him about it too. I think Maddie asked about, or Katie. It was Katie. I don't think Maddie was on last week. It was Katie. Anyway, back to right now. 7-day carb test, Rob Wolf's new book, Wired to Eat. Essentially, the thought process on that is 50 grams net a dose of effective carbohydrate, and trust me, especially somebody that's been on the keto for a little bit, is a freaky idea to have. And yeah, it sucks for a lot of different ones, a lot of different carbohydrate intakes, but it gives you a much better idea of what carbohydrates work better for you and your system. Essentially, what you do is take your blood sugar in the morning. You then immediately thereafter have 50 grams of net carbohydrates, so not including fiber and everything else. There's a list of different ones you can do. From there, you wait 2 hours and do a postprandial blood sugar, and you test it again, and you see what kind of blood sugar response you got. and there's ideal levels to be dropped down to. Now, I took it one step further and took a second measurement about towards the end of the actual meal itself. So I took it after about 10 to 20 minutes, depending on how long it took me to eat it. So essentially, about half an hour after starting eating the food, I would take the second measurement. So after the first bite, and I would look at the curve and see, all right, well, this one spiked super high, these one not so much. So weirdly enough, things like sweet potatoes and white potatoes, white potatoes obviously would make more sense, but sweet potatoes, Japanese sweet potatoes were the worst. They caused me to have the biggest blood sugar spike. Bananas were up there a little bit, but on the other end, mangoes didn't. I had almost no reaction. White rice, almost no reaction. I had a perfect blood sugar response. All of them returned back to normal, but in terms of like a crazy spike, white rice almost caused nothing. Whereas Japanese sweet potatoes shot me through the roof. I went to over 200. It was crazy. And from there, what you can do with that test, not only can you see what your blood sugar is like, you can also note subjective symptoms. Things like, okay, I have brain fog now, which certain things did. The mangoes, despite having no blood sugar response, did cause some brain fog. You might notice bathroom issues. That occurred on the mangoes as well. It wasn't the white rice, but it was another one I did. I forgot which other one. Another one gave me brain fog. Partially because I had trained that morning and it was more high intensity. My body is used to performing on ketones and MCTs, converting to ketones rather than carbohydrate in the morning. So a 6 a.m. plus that huge carbohydrate bolus plus the lack of MCTs definitely threw off my system, and lack of caffeine because I had no coffee on those either. So the lack of all of those, my brain was like, ooh, what's going on? Yeah, changes up a little bit. But yeah, those are some really good questions, and that extended me past what I was originally planning on. Normally we start at half an hour, but you had some great questions there at the end there, Brock. I appreciate it. Just gonna say hi to you guys who joined a little bit late. Tori, Oscar, what's up, guys? But unfortunately, I actually have to get running right now. Brother has a little bit of emergency. He texted me about not a minute ago. So I gotta get running actually. But if you made it this long on the live stream, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. If you're watching the replay, the fact that you made it this far is incredible. So thank you again. You're a trooper. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you haven't already, over on youtube.com/Mike the Caveman, please go follow. It definitely helps me out. Gets the views out there. If you can like and share it. And other than that, guys, love you. And I'll see you tomorrow.